Hi,
Hi, Archie.
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Great. How was your weekend?
Good.
Okay, are you ready for a deep dive?
Yes.
All right, here we go. Okay, here we are. So it was pretty exciting in our last video because Ash had this crazy idea of how to solve their problem of not being able to breathe air under the water in the ocean. And she had built something that seemed kind of like an elevator shaft that went from the sea floor or the bottom of the ocean up to the surface of the ocean. And it had been filled with water and she had been inside of it. And so then she packed it with wool, took some flint, lit it on fire, and the fire burned up all of the wool and the water and left nothing but air inside that shaft. So now they have a safe place to breathe air that is under the ocean. It was pretty ingenious. That means a really clever and smart idea. But the reason she can do that in Minecraft and not in the real world is because in Minecraft, they have this heart meter, this health meter with many hearts on it. And so if they take damage, like she did, they just lose some hearts and then they eat food and they get their hearts back again. So they don't have to worry very much. In the real world, we cannot do something like that. We can't ask ourselves, this would solve the problem, but I would be surrounded by a fire. So, should I do it yes or should I do it no? Of course, we're not going to ask that question because in the real world, we only have one life and we need to take care of that life and keep ourselves healthy. We never want to, on purpose, put ourselves in a dangerous situation where we could get hurt. That would not be smart. But in the Minecraft world, it works a little differently because life is not the same. And they have this way of kind of losing some of their health and getting it back again. It reminds me of how we say that a cat has 9 lives. Have you ever heard that a cat has 9 lives?
You can just jump off the 5 or 6 floor and didn't die.
The cat?
Yes.
Cats are pretty amazing animals, actually, aren't they? Okay, so they just found out that Ash is okay. These are the other 4 kids. They watched as Ash placed a door in her structure. Structure just means a building, something that you made. So she made this, I call it a shaft. I keep using that word. I haven't shown you how to spell it, but that space that an elevator will go up and down, it looks like a square room that goes really tall. That is called a shaft. So here is, and because she made a structure that has 4 walls and it is very tall from the sea floor up to the surface of the ocean, I think of it as a shaft. But that is her structure. That is what she made. And then she put a door in it. Once she had finished, Harper was the first one inside. Ash, that was brilliant, which means super smart, very clever, amazing, she said, clearing out all the water by burning wool. How did you think of that? You should eat something. Ash munched on bread while the others entered the structure. It was cramped, that means kind of small for all of them, but dry, right? No more water in there. I only wish I had thought of a way to do it without getting caught in the fire. That means she didn't want to be caught in the fire. She just couldn't come up with another idea. Ash said, but I knew I had enough health to handle it. We looked at that the other day, right? So we can look here at the, I'll use this. So here you can see all of these hearts. This is the health meter. And if you do something or something happens that damages your health, in Minecraft, they say they take damage or took damage, then they will lose some of these hearts, but they can get them back again. We had researched this, you and me, either by eating food, or I think there was also some potions that would let them get their health back instantly and quickly. But here in the story, they say, eat food. Now, where are we? Right here. So I want to just make sure that we have talked about this right here. They definitely had a big problem. They needed to breathe air and they were under the ocean water. So there was no air for them to breathe. They couldn't go out of the ocean above the surface into the air because the phantoms were circling around waiting to dive down and attack them. So they definitely had a big problem. The title of that chapter was Terror in the Sky. Those were the phantoms, and they were terrifying. Danger in the depths of the ocean, and that was not being able to breathe. So she did have a very clever idea, but she chose an idea that was going to hurt her health, that was going to cause her to take damage. The others can look at that as her being very brave, but I think it's important for us to really remember that the Minecraft world is not the real world. It was a virtual world. It's a game. It's pretend. And that is not how the real world works. And so in the real world, if we come up with an idea that might solve a problem, but we are going to get hurt if we do that idea, then we should not do it. We should not say, oh, it's okay if I get hurt because it will solve the problem. We need to just say, no, that idea will not work. No one should get hurt. So we will keep thinking and come up with a different idea. So I do not see Ash. I mean, yes, she was brave, and yes, it was a clever idea, but I do not see what she did as setting a good example for us in the real world. And then Morgan said, it was, I have my blue arrow. Let me change it back to I like my red dot. It was scary to see it happen though, said Morgan. I'm glad you're okay. And this place is awesome, Jody said. It's like a reverse aquarium. Do you remember when we looked at this aquarium? This aquarium is in the middle of a house, of a living room. And so people can walk around it. They can sit next to it. They can look into it. They can see the fish moving around. But the people are walking around it and the aquarium is in the middle. A reverse aquarium would be if you switched the aquarium part and the people part. So if you put inside the aquarium part where the people live, and then make everything around it the aquarium, that would be like a reverse aquarium. So if we were standing inside the aquarium in this picture, so if we are standing right in here, but there's no water, it's dry, we can breathe the air. But then in this area all around it in the rest of the room, if that was the aquarium with the coral and the fish, then when we're standing here in the middle, it would be like a reverse aquarium. Reverse means kind of flip it around and do the opposite. So in this picture, the aquarium is in the middle and the people part, the dry part with the air, is all around it. But if we swapped it or switched it, then the people part with the air would be in the middle and the fish would be swimming all around it. And that's kind of like what it is for them right now in the ocean. This aquarium that we see in this picture is a little bit like the shaft that Ash just made, except this one is round and hers has 4 walls, so it's more square. But that shaft, that place where they can breathe air, is in the middle of the ocean, and all around it, swimming all around them, are fish and sea life, maybe some dolphins and sea turtles. I suppose the view, that means what they can see, is nice, Ash agreed. Because do you remember that when Ash made this structure, she used glass? So on one side, she had that rock wall, but the other 3 sides were glass. So when they're standing in there, they can look through the glass and they can see all of the ocean around them on 3 different sides of the structure. And they can see all of the fish and sea turtles and dolphins swimming by. So that's pretty cool. I suppose the view is nice, Ash agreed. More importantly, there's room for our beds. So we can finally disconnect for the day, Jody said with relief. Remember, they wanted to make a new spawn point so that when they come back to the game the next time, they can pick up right here where they left off. She, this is Jody, poked Harper playfully. So we can finally disconnect for the day, she said, and get to that homework. Arr, Poe groaned, like arr, sounding like the saddest pirate in the world. How can we sound like a sad pirate, like arr? The next morning, Harper woke and immediately started thinking about the previous day's adventure. That means what happened the day before. She couldn't shake the feeling that she had disappointed her friends when they had been underwater. Let's talk about shake the feeling for a minute. That's an expression we use in English. And we usually use it with not, okay, with can't or couldn't. It's more than just a feeling. Like a feeling could be sadness or worry or surprise. If you say you can't shake it, we're not saying that I can't stop being sad. I can't stop being surprised. It's less about a feeling and more about what you're thinking. It's almost like you can't shake the thought. So Harper has this thought. She's thinking that her friends are disappointed in her. Because remember, Morgan had turned to her under the water and had tried to communicate with his eyes and gesturing with his hands. And he had tried to send this message to Harper saying, come on, you are the expert builder. You have memorized all of the formulas and recipes. We need a shelter. Do something. But remember, under the water, he can't speak. So he was trying to just use his face and his hands and send that message. And poor Harper did not understand him, and she did not do anything. She was just like, I don't get it. And so Ash is the one who kind of saved the day and came up with an idea. But Harper is feeling so guilty. She's feeling like, this is all my fault. Ash would not have been hurt if I had understood Morgan and I had come up with an idea and built something using my inventory. So she is feeling really worried that her friends are disappointed in her. I think maybe Harper is disappointed in herself, but I doubt that those other kids are disappointed in Harper. Well, so if she can't shake the feeling, that means she can't stop thinking that. She keeps thinking about, oh, I bet they're disappointed in me. And she can't shake that feeling. That means she can't stop thinking that. So as she keeps thinking about it, she's remembering what happened. And she's remembering that Morgan had looked to her under the water to figure things out. He had expected her to have solutions, right, to the problem. But she had just panicked. And because of that, Ash had put herself in harm's way. When you put yourself in harm's way, that means you put yourself in a situation where you could get hurt. And that is not a good idea. Well, Harper, decided that would never happen again. I don't know how she can decide that that will never, ever happen again, but that is what she is thinking. In quiet moments throughout the day, Harper used her phone to go online, to go to Google. She read everything she could about Minecraft's aquatic environments. When we look at this word aquatic, you can see AQUA says aqua, and aqua means water. You might have heard of the superhero Aquaman. He swims in the water. Aqua means water. Aquatic environment means everything around us, and aquatic environment would be everything around us if we are in the water. Much of the information was new to her, so she did not know it yet. So she's learning about it. Kelp is really useful, she told Morgan at lunch. Among other things, we can dry it out and eat it. Kelp is a type of seaweed. It's a plant in the ocean. So let's take a look at kelp. There are different kinds of kelp. This says this is sugar kelp. It's a native seaweed. It can grow to more than 20 feet long. Let's see, that would be about 7 meters, a little bit less than 7 meters, maybe 6.5 meters. And you can see how it can grow very long. This is what kelp looks like if you took it out of the water. So when it's still wet, it's very kind of slimy, and it's also pretty thick. Here you can see the kelp in the ocean. It's very pretty, actually. When I lived in Alaska, some friends of mine who lived on the ocean, they would go into the ocean by their house and get some kelp, and then they would turn it into pickles, sea pickles. So here's another picture of kelp in the ocean. Here's kelp growing. So it's a plant in the ocean. And there's one more picture looking at kelp in the ocean. I think this is a good picture of it right here. Okay, so, and this is what what it looks like. So it is something you can eat. And, but the only time I have eaten it is when they put it through a pickling process, which takes a while. And we called it sea pickles. So Harper finds out that kelp is useful. They can use it. They can dry it out and eat it. Maybe she's going to tell us some more things. So here's Harper looking at her phone. And while she's on her phone going to Google and learning about life in the ocean, it looks to me like she's learning about sea turtles and dolphins and pufferfish. The other thing she learned about kelp is that it is abundant. Abundant means there's a lot of it. She goes, because it's abundant, we will never go hungry. So she learns that they can always eat kelp. There's so much of it, they don't have to worry about being hungry. That's great, said Morgan. And Harper goes on, she wants to tell him more about what she learned. There are dolphins. If we feed them fish, they might lead us to treasure. Okay, I think that is a Minecraft thing, not a real world thing. I'm pretty sure that if you find a dolphin in the real world and give it a fish, it is not going to lead you to a treasure chest. We already have a treasure map, though, Ash said. And then Poe speaks up and he says, in real life news, that math homework was rough, Poe said. Rough means not easy. It was difficult. And then he said, Harper, what did you get for the last problem? Please tell me it was a whole number between 422 and 424. Now, this is kind of funny because there is only one whole number between 422 and 424. So he knows exactly what number he thinks the answer is, and he is hoping that Harper got the same one. Do you know what number comes exactly between 422 and 424?
423.
That's right. Now, an important word he used is whole number, because if we have our number line, so here's my number line, and if I start with 0, and then here's number 1, and here's number 2, and I just keep on going, and I would get to 422, 423, 424. Each of these lines that you see right here is what we call a whole number. But do you know what number would come like right here or right here? How about this one that I made green right here? Do you know what number that would be? Right in the middle of 2 and 3. Oops, your microphone's off.
Maybe right in the middle of 2 and 3.
So it needs to be bigger than
2.5.
That's right. So that would be bigger than 2 and smaller than 3. We can call it 2.5. If you do, this dot right here is called a decimal. And so if we say 2.5, we're using a decimal. The other way to say it is to say 2. Do you know how we say that in English?
Let me see. No.
2.5. Have you ever heard of?
2.5.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of a half?
Yes.
Right. For example, if we have a pizza, and if we ate this whole side of it, then how much of the pizza is left?
A half.
Half of the pizza, right? So this right here when we show it this way, so if you are showing halfway between 2 and 3, okay, so right in the middle between 2 and 3, it's bigger than 2 and it's less than 3, you could say 2.5, and that would be what we call in English using a fraction.
Fraction.
1/2 is a fraction because it is not a whole number. A whole number would be like one whole pizza. That would be a whole number. But as soon as you eat some of the pizza, all of a sudden you don't have the whole thing anymore. You have less than a whole pizza. And so it's going to become, it's going to become a fraction. So this would now be like this. You could also say 0.5. Those mean the same thing. So when you said 2.5, that's the same thing as 2.5. They mean exactly the same thing. It's halfway between 2 and 3. One is one is using a decimal and one is using a fraction, but it means the same thing. But neither one of these is a whole number because the whole numbers are only right on these lines. And so if we're not right on the number and we're somewhere in the middle of it, then we don't have a whole number anymore. So if we go back to Poe and he wants a whole number between 422 and 424, there is only one number in between 422 and 424, and that's 423. So it's kind of a funny way for him to ask what the answer is to that question, or for him to tell us what answer he got for that question in the math homework. Well, then Harper says, oh, Harper felt her cheeks go warm. That means she's feeling embarrassed. She says, I didn't do the homework yet. You what? Poe said. This was totally unexpected news. That means he was not expecting to hear this at all. Harper always does her homework. He said, Harper, it's due later today. We need to hand the homework in today. What do you mean you haven't done it yet? And she says, I know, she said. How come Harper has not done the homework? Because she has been busy using her phone to look up information about Minecraft in the ocean. And she's been doing that because she feels so badly that the day before, Ash took damage because Harper didn't know what to do. She wants to make sure that no one ever gets hurt again because she doesn't know what to do. And so the only thing she can think to do today is to learn as much as she can about Minecraft in the ocean. But that means that she was not doing her math homework. And so I wrote down this word here. This word is priorities. Priorities. When we have more than one thing that we need to do or that we want to do, we can make a list of all of the things that we need to do and that we want to do, but then we should rank them or number them in the order of the most important to the least important. So if you want to go to Google and learn something about Minecraft, but you need to get your math homework done that day, which one is more important?
Math.
That's right. And so that on her list should be number 1. And then looking up Google to find out more about Minecraft would be number 2. But she was doing number 2 first. She was doing the Google Minecraft in the ocean before she was doing her math homework. And that means that she did not have her priorities straight. She was not doing things in order of priority. She was not figuring out what was most important and doing that first. She was doing what she wanted first. For her, learning about Minecraft was most important that day. But actually, that was not the priority that day because she had math homework that was due. She, Harper, put away her phone and pulled out her homework. I'll do it now. I'll is I will do it now. I have plenty of time. She saw her friends exchange a look. I think we've seen this phrase before, exchange a look. When you exchange a look with someone, that means you just glance and look at each other, but you don't use any words. However, you kind of know each other well enough to know what each other is thinking. Not because you can read their mind and know exactly 100% for sure what they're thinking, but because you are pretty sure you know what they're thinking since you know them so well. Morgan says, Harper, were you reading about Minecraft all night? Morgan asked. Instead of doing the assignment, that's the math homework, this must be Harper talking because there's a new paragraph. Here's the indent. And we know that Morgan was talking to Harper. So now if we have someone new talking, this must be Harper answering Morgan. She says, I was actually trying to make this clunky old phone work better, Harper answered. But I may have spent some time reading about Minecraft as well. She bit her lip. I just want to be prepared next time, that's all. Ash opened her mouth to speak, but she was interrupted by the sound of a tremendous crash. And that is an exciting place for us to stop for today. A tremendous crash. Okay, Archie, it sure was great to see you today. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. So long. Your microphone's off.
Goodbye.
Are you going to tell us so long?
So long.
Cheddar Chip.
Goodbye.
Bye.